Are the Eagles going to sign Kareem Hunt or trade for Kareem Hunt? Or are they going to sign Kenyon Drake? And the Eagles finally made roster moves. Coming up next. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Angry Birds Fans Hangout. I'm your host, Hydro. And the Eagles finally made roster moves. They had to make them by August 23rd. So we'll get into that here in a few. But for right now, please like, follow, share this podcast with your friends and your family, or just spread it around to any other Eagles fans that you may know out there. We're trying to grow this channel and try to get as many fans involved in the discussions here. And you could also catch me at Twitter at UMCIE, or you can search for Angry Birds Fans Hangout and comment on there. I will post the podcast on Twitter. So if you can go on there and listen to it, or if you listen to it, you want to comment, then just comment on Twitter. I'll respond to you or send me a DM and we have a chat. And don't forget that we want to get as many fans involved into this podcast. So when we do go live on this podcast, I want you to call in. I want you to comment while we're live. So the only way you can do that is by following this podcast. And we're on other podcast channels such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podchaser, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And so you could also catch us at YouTube under Angry Birds Fans Hangout. I post the podcast on there for your viewing and listening pleasures. So please subscribe, like, and comment on there so that way we can interact and talk about our team, the Eagles. All right, so let's get into it. The Eagles finally made roster moves. On my last podcast, we went over the roster and we cut it down to the 53-man roster, just projected it. And I just gave my insight on who I thought would make the team. So after today with the roster, or after yesterday with the roster moves that they made, I was kind of like on point a little bit. So with the guys that they released or put on the PUP, none of those guys were the guys that I selected. So let's get into who they waived and who they put on the PUP. So the Eagles have waived tackle Jarrett Williams, running back DeAndre Torrey, cornerback Josh Blackwell, and then they placed a tackle guard. He could play both, Brett Toth, and tight end Tyree Jackson. They put them on the reserve physically unable to perform list, so the PUP. So for those of you who don't know what the reserve PUP is, it's basically where if a person finishes if they finish the preseason injured, then and they're still on the PUP, because these two guys they've been on PUP since preseason started. So they have to sit out pretty much the first 4 weeks of the season. But after that, the team can bring them back. They have a 5-week window after that point to bring those players back into practice. They could begin practicing. They could attend team meetings. And then after that, they have like a 21-day window in which to decide if they're going to get activated to the 53-man roster. And if that deadline passes, then they have to remain on the PUP list for the remainder of the season. So by looking at these moves, it already tells me that they're keeping Brett Toth as that extra lineman. So in case one of the linemen during the season goes down with an injury, or we have multiple injuries on the offensive line and they're out, let's say for the remainder of the season, and if Brett Toth is healthy, then they could bring him back from the PUP and activate him after that 4-week window. And so after that, he could practice. It'll be like another after 21 days, then he could come back and play in the game. So one of my choices or selections, I picked the extra lineman to be on the 53-man roster. So I did say I would make changes based on really how everything went in this next game against Miami. But after seeing what the roster moves they made here, I already know they're not going to keep the extra lineman that I picked. So the lineman that I picked was I think I picked Josh. Oh, Josh Seals is the guy that I picked to be extra. So right now, I'm going to take him off because either he's going to make he'll probably make the practice squad. So he won't make the 53-man roster, but they'll probably move somebody like him if I had to make a selection on what I saw from the other linemen. They could move him to the practice squad. They could also do the same thing to Brett Toth. They could just move him to the practice squad and then bring him up in case something happens to one of the linemen. So now the cornerback, I already knew there was going to get released some cornerbacks. So that just let me know that Josh Blackwell wasn't going to make the special teams unit. So that kind of lets me know that they're probably going to keep an extra cornerback, or they're going to keep an extra safety. But in my predictions, I kept an extra cornerback anyways, and that was Tay Gowan. So he's right now still my extra cornerback. I don't see Myro Gilrich beating him for that roster spot. I mean, I see Josh Jobe making it, but I don't know if he's going to actually make the actual 53-man. But I have him making the 53-man roster, but that could change. And then, so it could either between cornerback and safety. But today I'm going to go with safety. I think they're going to keep extra safety. So for my safeties, I had Andre Chachere and Kayvon Wallace backing up Marcus Epps and Anthony Harris. But I think if they're going to keep an extra safety, it's going to be between Jaquiski Tart and Ugo Amadi. And it's basically probably going to come down to this last preseason game between Miami. Which one of those two is going to perform the best? So really, they have to do well on defense and they have to do well on special teams, because one of these, if they select one of these guys to be on the 53-man roster, they're going to play special teams. And that's one thing I didn't account for when I did my predictions last time. I didn't account for special teams, but even a lot of the guys that I selected as the thirds for the team are pretty good. Will make pretty good special teamers. So, but if I had to pick today, who would make the roster based off special teams, I will go with Ugo Amadi because he's already had the experience. So him and Jaquiski Tart are actually both veteran players. They've been in the league. Jaquiski Tart is probably more of like, if you want somebody to actually play on defense and have that experience, he probably has that over Ugo Amadi. But if you want somebody that's a really good special teamer, but probably can go out on the field in a very limited backup role, or just in case injuries happen and he has to come in and fill in, I mean, he could probably do it, but I would go with Jaquiski Tart in that situation. But I mean, I don't see them keeping those two. I mean, they could, but it just depends on what other areas they're not trying to keep extra people on. So if they're going to keep two extra safeties, then they're probably not going to keep an extra receiver. You know, right now my pick for extra receiver is Jalen Rager, but he's going to be on the team. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it because of his contract issues, but we'll get into that a little bit here in a few. So with these 5 moves, and I counted 86 on the roster, and they had to get it down to 80. So maybe there's one person on here that was already released that I didn't know about. because I haven't heard anything about Marvin Wilson. I didn't see him at all, so I don't know if he's injured or they already released him and I didn't see it, or I didn't see any updates on that. So, but they cut 5, so that probably meant that that roster was at 85. So I was probably one person over, but that still really doesn't change anything from my predictions because I didn't have Marvin Wilson making the team anyways. So it kind of, and also with them releasing DeAndre Torrey, and he played pretty good, but you already know like these guys that come in late, they're probably not going to make the team. And I think like Howie really likes Jason Huntley. I think they like Jason Huntley. I mean, he's a good running back, but I mean, like Kennedy Brooks and DeAndre Torrey, they played well in the last preseason game. I mean, actually, I think with the limited time they had on the field, they look better than Jason Huntley to me running the ball. But of course, that's just an eye test. I'm not in the training camp. I'm not evaluating these players and how well they do in the training camp. But if they were to keep an extra running back, it'll be Jason Huntley. But I think they're probably going to push Jason Huntley and maybe Kennedy Brooks into the practice squad because we like keeping, a stock of running backs in the practice squad. Just we've used them in the past, especially with injuries, and with Miles Sanders being injured, we definitely need that extra running back just to help fill those roles. So we don't know what kind of injuries any of the running backs will have, especially Miles Sanders, because he has a known history of being injured. So they're probably going to keep 2 running backs. So they'll probably keep Jason Huntley and Kennedy Brooks on the practice squad and releasing DeAndre Torrey. So they're probably going to get the bulk of the playing time here in this next game against the Miami Dolphins. So we'll see how well they do. I'm interested in seeing how Kennedy Brooks does, versus Jason Huntley, because I already seen Jason Huntley playing the Jets, and I've seen him, against the Cleveland Browns. And he did okay. I mean, he's not a bad running back, but he did okay. So I just want to see how Kennedy Brooks looks. Now the receivers I could see them keeping maybe one more receiver after Jalen Reagor, but just for special team purposes. Like I could see them keeping Deion Kane for special teams, maybe like returning punts or something, returning kickoffs. I mean, I haven't seen him do it, but I don't know if he can or if he's even any good at it. Or maybe Britton Covey. I mean, they might keep Britton Covey over Deion Kane just for that reason, to have him, return kicks and punts, on the special teams. So that might be something working in Britton Covey's favor on staying on this 53-man roster. And so I think that pretty much solidifies the roster for right now. I just made that one change. I'm taking Josh Sills off, and I'm replacing him with, right now, Ugo Amadi. And the reason why I'm placing Ugo Amadi on the 53-man roster is for special team purposes. Now, if they want to keep somebody that can play, like actually like come in and play the position on the field, then it will be Jaquiski Tart. But right now, I'm just, for some reason, my feelings are going towards more of them building the special teams than actually having the players to come out there, to play it. Because, I mean, Marcus Epps, I mean, he was injured here in training camp, but it was just like a minor back problem. He was back playing against the New York Jets. So I guess that wasn't a big issue for him. So I really don't see him getting injured too much this season. So now, with all that said, and these moves that they made since they released their running back, are we going to trade for Kareem Hunt? And I've been seeing all these rumors out there that we should trade Dillard for Kareem Hunt and a pick, which is ridiculous. First of all, I don't think that's not the best trade options for our team. I think with the kind of line that we have, our starters and our backup linemen, I think that will benefit us down the road, especially towards the middle to the end of the season, because we need those linemen in order to make a push into the playoffs. Because, injuries can kind of decimate a team, and basically, cause you to lose games that you would normally not lose with not having those players on the field, especially the offensive line. But with our starters, the way our starters are playing and the way our second string line is playing, man, you could put, like I said before, you could change out those guys, and I think it won't be any problems on that line. Like in the past, like we had one time 18 different starting line combinations due to injuries, and they still did well. But I think this year they're built for that. I think they're built to, in case somebody goes down, they're built for somebody to come in and replace that person, and there will be no drop off. So now, running back position, if Miles Sanders is unable to play, can Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell go in there and make contributions? Yes. But their skill sets are limited compared to Miles Sanders because they're smaller backs than Miles Sanders is. And Miles Sanders he's not even really a big back himself, but he's bigger than those guys. So he can, he could punish the defense a little bit more than them. So we would have to change our scheme on offense and to get Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott going, because last season we had Jordan Howard, who was our big back. So he was that punisher and stuff like that. But even when he got injured, we still had Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott go out there and still tear it up. I'm very confident in those two, especially Boston Scott, especially if he has to go up against the New York Giants or somebody like that, because he's kind of like Deshaun Jackson. He's our giant killer right now. When he's out there, the Giants haven't been able to stop him for the past 3 seasons. Like, he goes out there and we win games off the back of Boston Scott. So would trading for Kareem Hunt fix the situation that in the case that Miles Sanders gets injured? I believe so. I think Kareem Hunt, will be a good replacement for Miles Sanders. I mean, he has the skills, he has the knowledge. I mean, he's not a very big back, but he is still a punishing back. Like, he can do the same things that Miles Sanders does. I mean, he's pretty fast, he's elusive, and he'll still run through you. So, but I think with trading like Dillard and a pick for him, I don't think that will help our team out in the long run. But there is one situation that I would definitely accept in getting Kareem Hunt, and that's trading Jalen Reagor. If we could trade Jalen Reagor for Kareem Hunt, I would have no complaints about that. One, we move Jalen Reagor off our roster and possibly unload the financials involved with him, his contracts, because he's still on his rookie contract. And I think, is it this season that he is looking to get, to extend his contract or sign another contract? And it's not going to happen for him if he doesn't go out there and perform. Now, if he goes out there and he lights it up and, he puts up, like, I'll say double the numbers he had. I think he only had like 200 yards, not even 300 yards receiving last season. But if he can put up like 600 yards, then maybe. I mean, I wouldn't see that as a failure, especially if he's on the second, he's not on that initial starting roster, but he comes in, as a replacement receiver to relieve these guys, and he makes contributions in that way. And also, if he comes in, because I think he's only had like one punt return for a touchdown, but if he comes in and contributes really well on special teams and is like, getting a chunk of yards on returns, or even, scoring touchdowns on punt returns, kickoff returns, or any of that, then I could see him maybe getting extended. But I mean, as of right now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Eagles will probably hold on to him and then let him go after his contract expires. They're probably not going to extend him. But if he does stay and play with the Eagles this season, he's going to have to show out in order to even be considered for an extension. And even then, it's not going to be an expensive one. So they might shop him, or he might go shopping for another team to see who will pay him more money than the Eagles will. But if that doesn't happen, I mean, the Eagles can keep him for, with a cheaper contract, or maybe just trade him. They'll probably trade him in the offseason, for, maybe trade him for a pick, or trade him for another player. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But with a Rager and Kareem Hunt trade, I would like to see that happen. I mean, if it happens, great. I mean, that works out for both teams. I think Rager can go somewhere and start new with a different team. You never know. He might do really well with the Cleveland Browns, But, and I think Kareem Hunt will come here. He won't have as big as a role. I mean, that's probably why he didn't want to stay with Cleveland Browns anyways, because he doesn't have a really big role there, and they're not probably paying him or going to extend them. So, but coming here, he has a possibility of having a big role if Miles Sanders goes down with an injury, that especially one that keeps him out for multiple games. Now let's go on to the other running back that we are rumored to be looking at. The Raiders, they released Kenyon Drake. And now that kind of like, I don't know the ins and outs of why he was released, but when a team releases a player, I mean, there's something, something involved in that. So it's either they don't want to pay him the money that he wants, or he's just not performing to their expectations. So I don't know why we were bringing a running back that was released. I mean, that's why Howard gets paid the big money, right? Because he has to find out the behind the scenes of why that player's been released, so he can contact the Raiders, their management, and be like, why did you release Kenyon Drake? Like, what issues is he having? Is it personal? Is he injured, or is he just not, performing to to your expectations and doing what he has been doing for the, since he's been in the NFL. I mean, he's been a good running back for the Raiders, but I think they're heavy at running back too, so that's probably why they released him. They don't want to pay all that money for running backs. Running backs is, I remember back in the day when running backs, like, it was a big deal to have a good running back. So you, like, have Walter Payton, you know, um, Marcus Allen, Eric Dickerson, all these, big name running backs, and they got paid good money, because if you had a good running back, you more than likely had a good team, but just recently now, like, running backs are just like, you might pay them, well, for like a rookie contract, come in, and then by the time it's time for them to renew their contract, they're probably on a decline, because of the punishment they take, or injuries, sort of things like that. It's not a lot of running backs that like, you know, make it a big career out of the NFL. There's only a few, like, you can name a few probably on one hand who've have had, like, a long career in the NFL. And so, like, you could look at one like Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott was dominating the NFL when he first came in. As much as I hate to admit it, since he plays on the Cowboys, but he was a leading rusher, and he was a decent running back. But as the years, as the seasons went by, you could see the decline in his game. I mean, is he still a dangerous running back? Yes, but they ended up paying him a big contract. And look, the Dallas Cowboys are hurting right now because of all these big contracts. They can't even bring in players now because of that, because they paid Dak, they paid Zeke, they paid what's his name, um, their defensive end. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. They paid. I think when they bring in Amari Cooper, they paid him money, and then they have CD Lamb. I think he's still on his rookie contract, so they'll probably end up paying him big money if he keeps doing well. So they always pay like certain players big time money, but it kind of hurts them in the long run because they can't bring in, quality players. And that's one thing that hurt us with Carson Wentz is we ended up paying him, that big contract. And when that happened, I was like, why? Why are we paying him? I mean, yes, he helped us get to the Super Bowl, but he got injured. Nick Foles took us the rest of the way, won us a Super Bowl. It wasn't like if Carson Wentz would have won us a Super Bowl, then I would have agreed with that contract. But that contract put us in the hole really bad. Like you can see, just since we won the Super Bowl, we haven't been able to bring in quality, players, like even like quality veteran players, just until recently. Now, since we offloaded Carson Wentz, and we were still had his contract in our cap is guaranteed in our cap. We were still paying him, but now we're kind of like past that point. So we finally were, Howie had to work his magic, man, after making that mistake. And now we're able to see we bring in all these veteran players, sign them to 1 year deals, like, one year prove it deals. So see how well they play. But if we play really well this year, and just say we happen to make it to the Super Bowl with these guys, we're gonna have to pay them. We're gonna have to pay. If Hassan Reddick is doing his thing, if Kaiser White they're doing their thing, Bradbury, Slay, like we're gonna have to pay these guys. We're gonna have to pay them money. And Jalen Hurts. If Jalen Hurts plays like Carson Wentz did in 2017, puts up those kind of numbers and gets us deep into the playoffs, I would say even if they get us to the NFC Championship, we're gonna have to pay these guys. So we're gonna be kind of hurting on that end. I mean, luckily we have 2 first-round picks in the upcoming draft that can help us out, but we still got to pay those first-round picks. We got to pay them first-round money. So but that's why we got Howie. I mean, people, like I've down talked Howie. I complained about his bad picks he's made these past couple of seasons, but he's made it up, man. He's done his work. He's made up for his mistakes in the past drafts, and with the contract with Carson Wentz, he's made up for it. I mean, I can't, I got to forgive the guy. I can't just hold a grudge over, on him for that. But we still have to see. We have to see what happens this year. If we do really well this year, Howie, thumbs up to you, man, because you did your thing. So I don't see us signing Kenyon Drake. I mean, would he, like, if we had to bring in like that extra back just to come in just in case, Miles Sanders goes out and we just need that rotation of backs. Yeah, he'll be a pretty good addition to that rotation. He'll make his contributions, but I would rather have Kareem Hunt. Between those two, I'd rather have Kareem Hunt. But Kareem Hunt's going to take, it's going to put us, more in debt than Kenyon Drake. Like Kenyon Drake, if we're looking for a cheaper option, then we go for Kenyon Drake. Because when players get released, I mean, 9 times out of 10, nobody's going to be calling them with big contracts. So nothing, Howie, he's a magician at that. He likes to wait until the last minute. So we won't hear anything about any trades or signing any other players until we make this final roster move. So these players that are playing for a spot, they need to play because Howie's out there looking, okay, how can we get Kareem Hunt or how can we get Kenyon Drake or one of these guys like on our team? Because what position are we willing to sacrifice in order to bring this guy in? And right now, I'm betting that he's willing to sacrifice the wide receiver spot because I think we need a lot of help at safety and cornerback. But I would think if we could bring in a quality safety, backup safety, then he would make a move for that. But if these guys play and they show they could be that quality safety or quality cornerback, then he'll keep them on the roster. But if there's another guy out there that he feels plays better, he'll bring that guy in, that player in, and and release these guys or put them on the practice squad. So but the moves have been made and started. So this one was the easy one. Now here comes the hard one. The hard one will be cut down to the 53-man roster by August 30th. And like I'm interested in seeing like what direction they're gonna move, like especially with the receiver. My eye is on the receiver spot. Is it gonna be Deion Kane or Jalen Reagor? And who do y'all think it should be? I mean, I know if I had to guess your pick, I would guess that y'all would say Deion Kane because that would be my pick too. But you got to take into consideration what we would lose in getting rid of Jalen Reagor. That would put us in a bind, and that would keep us from probably signing a player down the road, especially during the middle of the season when they're doing these free agent acquisitions and stuff. So if there's a free agent out there available, if we got rid of Jalen Reagor and we still owe him money, we probably won't be able to pick up that free agent player because of that. So we have to be weary of our money too. You know, these trades and getting rid of players, it's all money. It's like it's all focused on money. And Jalen Reagor right now is money. He's money compared to Deion Kane. Deion Kane there's no money in Deion Kane. I mean, you can pay him the the minimum salary, but that probably wouldn't be nothing compared to how much money you would lose in getting rid of Jalen Reagor right now. Now, if we could trade him for another player and they could, I think that's the only scenario. Like, are there teams looking for Jalen Reagor? I mean, there's rumors that there are teams looking at him, but these rumors happen all the time and nothing ever happens, So as right now, I see Jalen Reagor making that final spot for the wide receiver core, unless they decide to bring in an extra player. If they decide to bring in an extra receiver, I think that spot will probably go to Brent Covey, and that's because of special teams. But I just don't see that happening. I think Jalen Reagor will be on the team. He'll be used on special teams again, returning punts, kickoffs, or whatever. And us as fans just have to sit there and just cringe. But it's up to Jalen Reagor to prove us wrong. I mean, he hasn't done it yet, and that's on him. He can't fault us as fans for criticizing his play because, I mean, I'm not a stats guy, but the numbers reflect it. I mean, his in game reflects it. It's like reflected in the game and is reflected in the numbers. Just sorry to say. Sorry, Jalen Reagor, but that's just the truth. I mean, if you were playing well, we would, hey, we will have your back. But this is a business, and this is our team, and we look at what's best for our team. And right now, he's not what's best for our team when it comes to the receiving core and special teams, honestly. So just let me know what you think. What are your thoughts, like especially on Jalen Reagor? Should it be Jalen Reagor or Deion Kane? Should we trade for Kareem Hunt? Is Kareem Hunt worth? Is he worth it? Is he worth trading Dillard and another pick? Which I don't think so, but is he worth a Jalen Reagor trade? I think that is, that's more feasible to me, and I'll agree with it. I would have no disagreements in them trading Jalen Reagor for Kareem Hunt. And what about Kenyon Drake? Y'all think we should sign him, bring him in, add him to the running back room? Or should we just keep one of our guys? Should we just keep was it Jason Huntley and Kennedy Brooks? Should we keep those two guys instead of bringing Kenyon Drake in? I don't know. You tell me. I mean, I'm about as lost as y'all are right now. So I just hope Howie and the staff, they make the best move, because right now this is important because we have the team. We just need to add those pieces. We need those pieces, especially in cornerback and safety, which I think that's probably our weakest points. I just say that's our weakest point because of our backups and just the way they played in this last game. I would say that's our weakest point. Like, we don't have good backups. If somebody gets injured, we're going to be hurting in that area. So just let me know what your thoughts are. Like I said, you can comment on here on the podcast or any podcast if they allow you to comment, but just please subscribe, share, follow, spread the word about the podcast so we can build our community here on the Angry Birds Fans Hangout. Y'all can come hang out with me. All the Birds fans can hang out. We could talk shit. We could cheer our team on. You can also catch me at Twitter at UMCIE. Leave your comments there. If you can't find me that way, just search for Angry Birds Fans Hangout. Then you'll find me. A comment and leave me a message. I'll respond back to you. And also head over to YouTube, subscribe, like our videos, and just listen to the content on there. I always put the podcast that we do on there. And then also comment on those videos, and I'll come over and I'll reply to your comments. And we're just here to build this channel. Like I said, this channel is for you Eagles fans. And when you come on here, especially if we're live, you can call in. I will accept your call. You can ask questions. You can make your own comments. If I get guests on here that to interview or just talk, Eagles or NFL football in general, you can call in and you can ask them questions, or you could just leave comments on the live broadcast, and then I will read your comment to them, or I could just read your comment, answer your questions, or whatever you say. I would just say it on this podcast. So until next time, go Birds.